Welcome, everyone, to Cards on the Pond, a baseball card podcast. I am Nate here with
What
Jimbo.
up, everybody?
Woo, woo. And we are back. Took a week-long hiatus, but we are back ready to talk some cards. We had been talking about the MLB Top 100, and we made it all the way through the review and the top 10, but we are taking another slight hiatus from that to talk about one big thing. There have been a number of big things that have happened in baseball recently. Top prospects getting called up. I saw Heston Kierstad got called up the other day by the Orioles. Other such guys. Jordan Walker's been hitting at the end of the year, which is nice to see for Cardinals fans and for Jordan Walker collectors. Other such things that I'm trying to rack my brain, but I can't think of right now. But that's okay. The one thing I really want to. Oh yeah, Jimbo, you got something?
I got one thing. Hunter Goodman. Remember that name?
The Rockies.
Yeah.
Is he hitting well in the majors? I know he got called up. I just haven't paid attention to the Rockies at all.
He did when he was starting off, like for a few games, and I think they went on the road and it dipped, just like any rookie.
Like any Rocky.
Yeah, or any Rocky. But it's just fun because now a lot of the players, like you and I have been, you've been doing this for a long time, but you and I probably over a year now. So now some of the players we talked about in the beginning are now seeing the majors. So it's just fun seeing all the names, especially this year. There's just like a barrage of rookies.
It feels good. It also is like, man, I wish I'd bought cards of so and so player or so and so player. But what are you gonna do?
Well, the best thing about that is when you get that feeling, just realize that there's another player today that will be that player in a year from now.
Yep.
And that's what I think when you brought up what we were going to talk about today is a great example of that, right? With Elly De La Cruz.
And Jimbo brings up Elly De La Cruz, and that is who I want to talk about today. And this is mostly because obviously Elly, he was spectacular at the beginning part of the season, no doubt about it. Hit the ball hard, and every time it felt like when he made contact, he was doing really well, right? Every single time. So let's take just a cursory look at Elly De La Cruz's stats on the season real quick. Pulling up Fangraphs here, and I will present those. But Elly, to say he has struggled recently is an understatement. So Elly, he has played 86 games this year. He is now hitting 235, 301 with a 408 slugging, 83 WRC plus. He's got a 34% strikeout rate, which is higher than any other level he's ever been at. His isolated power is significantly lower than any level he's been at, except for rookie ball in 2019 at the age of 17. His walk rate is pretty much right in line with where it's been, but his strikeout rate has exploded. His isolated power has dropped, and because of that, a bunch of his other stats have dropped. Now, those are his cursory stats, Jimbo. What I want to talk about are his advanced stats, his StatCast stats. So I'm going to get rid of that, and we're going to jump into StatCast here for Elly De La Cruz because it doesn't paint a very pretty picture. Also, real quick, just as an aside, because I was curious, I looked up his splits on Baseball Reference, and in the second half, he has a 606 OPS. He's hitting 181. So obviously he was good in the first half, in the first 30 games. And then the league, of course, like every rookie, they figured him out, as they do. And he has not made the adjustment back. And there should have been some warning signs. Obviously, his low strikeout rates in the minors should have been like, oh, there's probably some regression coming because he's not likely going to hit 325. Well, now you can look at these numbers, and yeah, you see right here in the middle, this is what we're looking at, 2023 MLB percentile rankings. Is he a great base runner? You betcha. Is he a great fielder? Range, 92 percentile, 98 percentile arm strength? You betcha. Running, is he the fastest guy in the majors? You betcha. 100th percentile sprint speed. All right. If I scroll down a little bit farther, you can see here the percentile rankings because I want the max exit velocity. Exit velocity is nice, and the whole point of this is the exit velocity can be deceiving, and it deceived with Elly De La Cruz. He hit the ball hard. Max exit velocity, 97th percentile in the entire majors. You know who else had really, really good max exit velocities? O'Neal Cruz. You remember O'Neal Cruz, the other extremely hot, tall shortstop that was injured all year? He had really good max exit velocities. He was fool's gold for a while, and then people soured on him quickly once it turned out that it was going to be a long road to stardom for him, especially now that he missed an entire year. In fact, if I quick look at his, because I pulled his up, he was in the 91st percentile average exit velocity last year in 2022, but the 17th percentile in expected batting average, the 36th percentile in expected weighted on base average, the 4th percentile in with percentage, the 1st percentile in K percentage in the entire MLB, right? That's O'Neal Cruz. And so, yeah, he hit the ball hard, but he didn't do anything else. And so we get to Elly De La Cruz, and you can see these numbers here. 97th percentile exit velocity, sweet. 78th percentile hard hit percentage, 78th percentile exit velocity, sweet. He hits the ball hard, but then you go to everything else and everything else. 3rd percentile K rate, 25th percentile whiff rate, 21st percentile chase rate. You know, this guy's not walking, 47th percentile walk rate. He's chasing. He's swinging and missing a ton. He's striking out a ton. You know what? The biggest issue with a strikeout, Jimbo, is that if you're not putting the ball in play, good things can't happen.
Yeah, you can't use his speed. His like one of his core strengths.
Probably his top tool. I mean, there's no other thing on here that he's in the 100th percentile, but he's 100th percentile in speed, right? It's his top tool. He is an 80 grade speed on an 80 grade scale, right, on a 2080. But he can't use it because he's not putting the ball in play. His weighted on base average, his expected batting average, his expected slugging, his expected ISO, his expected on base percentage, his barrel number of barrels he's had, and his barrel percentage all low. Barrel percentage 44%. You can see that here. And there's obviously guys that make a profile like this work. One in particular is Cody Bellinger. This year, I'll show his stats real quick. Cody Bellinger, look. Expected batting average, 77th percentile. Expected slugging, 64th. Sweet spot percentage, 85th. But he has an average exit velocity of 21 percentile, 30 percentile barrel, hard hit rate, 11 percentile.
Yeah.
So this might be fool's gold, but it also might be a guy that suddenly learned how to hit on the sweet spot every single time, while also not striking out, not whiffing, not striking out. He's only striking out, Kang 16% of the time. He's just putting the ball in play more, and good things are happening, even if it's probably fool's gold.
Well,
somewhat.
Especially like if you have high EVs, like if you're hitting the ball hard, if you just hit the ball more often and you put it in play, like things are going to happen. Like good things are going to happen to you more often than not if you're hitting the ball at the EV levels that these guys are.
Look at Cody Bellinger. He's not even hitting the ball hard. He's just putting the ball in play, and his expected batting average is 269, but he's hitting 316. So it doesn't even have to. It doesn't even have to be hit hard.
Yeah.
To have that luck on your side. You can't get luck on your side if you are Elly De La Cruz and you're not putting the ball in play and you're not barreling the ball. Like if he was barreling the ball more often with these exit velocities, the rest of it is who cares, because he's probably hitting tanks left and right. So who cares about the rest of it?
Question: can you pull up Ronald Acuna's?
I can. I actually already have it here, and yeah, it's magnificent.
Because
because I wanted to show a really good hitter compared to Elly De La Cruz, so I pulled up a number of guys. Ronald Acuna is insane.
Yeah.
100th percentile expected weighted on base average, expected batting average 100th percentile, expected slugging 100th percentile, average exit velocity 100th percentile, barrel percentage. Elly De La Cruz was sitting at 44%. Ronald Acuna is barreling it up 92 in the 92nd percentile. 15% of the time he's barreling up the ball. Hard hit percentage 98th percentile. Sweet spot 40th percentile. Chase rate 86. He's not chasing. He's not whiffing. He's not striking out. He's walking almost as much as he's striking out, while also not missing when he's swinging and hitting the ball insanely hard and barreling the ball up every time he hits it. This is, of course, an MVP type hitter. It would be unfair to quantify Elly De La Cruz as an MVP type hitter. He was expected to be like the savior of the Reds. He clearly has not been that. But you can see what a good hitter looks like. If we go, if we choose his teammate Matt Olson, because I pulled his up as well, you can see similar thing. 97th percentile expected weighted, 98th percentile slugging, average exit velocity 99th, barrel percentage 98, hard hit 100. He's barreling up the ball. He's also hitting the ball hard, and everything else is happening. Even if he's striking out more than often, he's walking a ton, he's barreling, he's hitting hard, and other things are happening for him. If we go to Gunnar Henderson, I just pulled up again, guys at random in my head. Nothing. I'm not trying to choose random guys. In fact, you should give me a random guy at the end when we cover Gunnar Henderson, and we'll look at some random dude that's doing well. Gunnar Henderson, 92nd percentile average exit velocity, 96th percentile hard hit, barrel percentage 71st percentile. Doesn't chase a ton, 69th percentile in chase rate, whiffs and strikes out, but he barrels. He barrels with hard exit velocities, with hard hit rate. And because of that, everything else is doing all right. And he has a slightly above average walk rate. You know, you can kind of see where I'm going here. Give me one random player, Jimbo.
Like in comparison to who? Elly?
Just a player you think might have a StatCast that's interesting to see.
Yeah. How about we do like a Jazz Chisholm?
All right.
You like Jazz?
Jazz Chisholm.
Because I feel like he comes out to be kind of like an Elly type, like high ceiling, high strikeout, power.
Yes. All right. Let's go to here. Jazz Chisholm. All right. So Jazz. Average exit velocity 67%, barrel rate 75%, hard hit percentage 51%, sweet spot 1%. Which is really bad. He's still hitting better than Elly De La Cruz is, 745 OPS compared to Elly's 7.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
709. But the rest of it, you know, you'll notice he's not hitting the ball extremely hard. He's not hard hit percentage isn't great. His sweet spot isn't great, but he's barreling the ball enough where he's keeping some of these numbers afloat when his expected batting average is way lower. His expected weighted on base average, 301. Some of this stuff is atrocious. He's not having the best year, and yet he's still putting up slightly better numbers just because he's barreling some balls. And hits the ball somewhat hard, I guess, 67th percentile. But Jazz is another guy who whiffing a ton, K'ing a ton, walking very poorly, chasing at a okay clip, not sweet spotting the ball. And you can see that it reflects in his numbers, just like you can see in Elly De La Cruz, that when you look at Elly, his numbers back up what you're seeing. He's not barreling. He's not hitting the sweet spot. He's chasing. He's whiffing. He's striking out. And what do you know?
Yeah.
His numbers are poor.
So one thing with all this, like I remember Elly when he got called up, a lot of excitement, right? I was excited about it. The Reds, they had a lot of young players get called up before him. They were hot when he got called up, so I feel like it was like a perfect situation. Um, it was right in the middle of summer when it's warm, like the ball's flying, and that's all great. And like I don't know, like we saw in the beginning how exciting he is, right? Everyone saw
Hmm.
the flash, they saw the ceiling, they saw like what could be, like, oh, the next Acuna, the next, the speed with the power with all that, which is great. And one thing that I had people ask me about him, I was like, honestly, I know he's doing great. His prices are so high, but it's like there will be a decline because he's one of those players that will have these ups and downs
Oh yeah.
because of the way he plays. And like when you and I are talking about prospects, we're always talking about like walk rate, like we're talking about stuff like that. Like a lot of the stats that we're like, oh, he is just a good pure hitter. When we say he's a good pure hitter, it means like consistent. Like I was talking about Yoshida. I think that's how you say his name, the Boston first baseman
He's been pretty atrocious.
of late, but
Yeah.
even with that, he's still maintaining pretty solid numbers as like overall because of his approach at the plate. Even when he's struggling,
Hmm.
it's not like a crater, like where in Ellie, it's like on top of the world to like, ooh, do I even start him in fantasy?
Yeah.
Like it's kind of like that. But a Yoshida's like, oh, he's struggling. We'll throw him in there. He'll still get some walks, get some good at bats.
Those guys that can hit, they might hit 190 for a week, but they still somehow manage to get like a 320 on base percentage where it's like, all right, he wasn't completely useless, not great, but you at least can put him out there to work through his problems. Now, one thing that should be mentioned is while Ellie is clearly struggling, and even his splits of the last 28 days, he has a 572 OPS, 14 days of 517 OPS, last 7 days, a 297 OPS. He has been struggling, but the defense is still there,
Mm-hmm.
right? The defense is still spectacular. If he does happen to get on base, the running is still there.
Mm-hmm.
And there's still always that chance that he randomly runs into one and hits a bomb,
Exactly. Yeah.
right? So like there's still at least not there's no fear in him like losing his starting gig anytime soon because he has
Mm-hmm.
other abilities that help the team. I mean, he is an absurdly good defender at shortstop. Like not just good, not just passable, absurdly good. You can see it in the numbers there under the
Yeah.
fielding section with range and arm strength.
Yeah.
Um so that is a boon to Elly De La Cruz collectors where you can have them figure it out. But the big thing for me is that a lot of what I saw about Elly De La Cruz was how hard he hit the ball, how fast he threw the ball, how fast he was running, how hard he hit the ball. Those are nice, right? Those are nice numbers to look at. They're fun, but they
Mm-hmm.
don't, in the end, mean anything. Instead
Mm-hmm.
of being concerned about average exit velocities, we should just be concerned about barrel percentage. That should be the number we're really looking at here. Like, how often is he barreling the ball? Because if he's barreling the ball, then he's probably doing some damage. If he's not barreling the ball, it doesn't matter how hard he can hit it or how hard he hits it because he's mishitting it. And if you mishit a ball hard, you're just grounding out to the shortstop, or you're sending a fly ball into the air a million miles per hour that's getting caught because you're mishitting it constantly. And
Mm-hmm.
he, at a 44 percentile barrel rate, he mishits, he's mishitting a lot, hitting the ball hard. Some of those might sneak through, right? But by and large, he is a testament to the downfall of just hyping up exit velocities.
Yeah. And honestly, like, when we talk about certain players when they're prospects still early on, there's some things that we bring up that we might not bring up about a different prospect because there's some things that should be more of a red flag than to others. Where like in Ellie, if this, let's say he, is back in single A or whatever, and we're looking at his numbers like here, it's like, oh, the potential's there, the ceiling is there. Let's keep an eye out on the sweet spot percentage, chase rate, whiff rate, K rate, barrel percentage, all of that. And if we see progress in that, that's what will get me more excited about than the home run numbers, because those will generate the home run numbers. And Elly, to me, is I find interesting because he's actually a fun one to buy and sell, honestly, because of how exciting he is. Where you could buy him when, like right now, let's say, not a lot of people are talking about him. He's still pretty expensive, but he will have that excitement again where he's stealing from second to home or whatever it is, all the ESPN highlights that
Yeah,
will happen again with them. And then cards will probably go up for them, and then you could sell. You could honestly just keep buying and selling at the right times with them.
it's
But
true.
here's the thing that's fun. Like, that's why I brought up Acuna, is where if he figures it out, like truly figures it out, and figures out how to really, work on his approach at the plate, which is like during spring training, I am so excited to watch him to see how he does in the offseason. If he figures that out, that's when it's like, okay, now it might be time to like really start putting some money in him and holding on to him. Because if he figures that out, he can get those Acuna type numbers if he does it for an entire season.
Correct. I'm glad you brought that up because it's a good reminder that he's only 21 years old.
Exactly. Yeah.
He's not a failed prospect. He's not a disappointment. He's a 21-year-old in his first taste of Major League Baseball. The reason we're bringing him up today is because a lot of people's love of him was just because of exit velocities.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just trying to push back. I like exit velocities. I really do. I think exit velocities are I've used it before as a great tool to find guys that are hitting the ball hard in rookie ball or whatever you call it now, in low A,
Yeah.
right? Finding those numbers, and I can't find them online. I don't even know how to find minor league
Twitter.
numbers like
You
barrel.
called me that.
Yeah, outside of Twitter. Like, I don't know if there's a source I can go to where I can be like, all right, what's Jackson Churrio's barrel percentage, right? I don't think I
Uh-huh.
can find that anywhere unless I know somebody that knows it from their work or on Twitter or whatever. But exit velocities are a nice thing when you're like, all right, here's an 18-year-old hitting the ball 106 miles per hour. All right, I like taking gambles on it like that.
Mm-hmm.
Where it doesn't matter much is when you're in the majors and you got
Exactly.
guys like Cody Bellinger who are successful without it. You got guys like Mike Trout who are not generally all in the top exit velocity echelon. They're high up there, maybe 90% instead of 97%, right? But it's not like he doesn't always have to be just the top exit velocities. He doesn't have to hit the ball 120 miles per hour like Yordan Alvarez or Aaron Judge to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, for some reason, we've kind of gotten there as a culture, as a card collecting culture and as baseball collector, where it's like, all right, if he hits 117 miles per hour, he's just going to be good automatically. That's not always the case.
Mm-hmm.
Those guys have other things going for them that are also make them good, like they can barrel the ball up. And so, um, it is a nice tool for me to find guys young that I think can probably use that exit velocity to their advantage, especially Jimbo brings this up all the time. Bad defense in the minors. You hit a
Mm-hmm.
ball hard at a bad defender in the minors, you're getting a hit. And
Yeah.
you're boosting those stats. In the majors, you're not eating up the Bryce Terangs of the world, the Willie Adamises or whatever, because or the Nico Horners or the Ian Haps or whoever you
Mm-hmm.
might put out there. These guys are good defenders,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it doesn't matter how hard you hit the ball at them; they're not going to give you free hits most of the time. And so exit velocity isn't the end all be all. It's a nice bonus, but it's not the end all be all. But Ellie could get there.
Yeah. The way I always look at like any of these stats, it's just one ingredient to a recipe.
Yep.
Like you could have one ingredient that you absolutely love, but if there's a bunch of random ingredients you don't like it's not going to make the recipe good. Where it's like there's so many. That's what baseball. Why I love baseball, because especially prospecting baseball, there's so many pieces and it's so variable. There's so many different situations where it's not like, oh, just because this person's good at this, like has this strength means they're going to be good. Like it has to just gel right. And there's so many factors, and that's what's fun about it. And when you do get really excited, when there is a Elly De La Cruz debut and he's going off and he's stealing bags, he's hitting moonshots, like just take a step back and be like, okay, let's dive deeper. I know I'm excited right now about this player, but is it for real? Is it sustainable, or is it just, he's having a hot streak?
And it should be mentioned real quick that obviously if you're just looking at his first like 2-3 weeks of stats, these numbers probably looked way different, right? We're finally
Oh yeah,
getting a sample size.
yeah,
We're getting a half season sample size where you can be like, all right, now we kind of know what he's like.
yeah.
Whereas any guy can, you know, hit well for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month at a time.
Mhm.
Literally any player. I've seen it before with some of the worst Brewers. Unieski Betancourt hit like 10 home runs in a month one time for the Brewers and then was atrocious.
Yeah. Dude, MLB, they'll figure you out. Even like from one at bat to another in the same game, they'll make
Yep.
adjustments. I've been in the video rooms, like there's so many people dissecting everything that that's what that's why I like that's why I'm always looking for the consistent type of players, the safe ones that are sustainable, and then I always pick a few things out that I want to watch, and if they improve on that, the stuff that is sustainable will always be there. But
Yeah.
it's those variable talents.
Like Elly De La Cruz, his speed, his fielding, his exit velocities, they're always going to be there. And because of that, he's always going to be a playable guy for the Reds. Now we'll watch and we'll watch with probably pretty close attention. Can he get that barrel percentage up? Can he get that K percentage up a bit? Can he stop chasing as much? If he stops chasing as much, I don't care if he keeps whiffing as much, but if he stops chasing balls he really can't hit, that will up his K percentage. That will probably up his barrel percentage because
Yeah.
his barrel percentage is probably being driven down by chasing balls he shouldn't be swinging at and making weak contact. And then the rest of these numbers will go up. So I agree. You find a couple that you look at and you're like, all right, do I believe in Elly De Cruz? Sure, maybe I'll make an investment. And I'll see if these numbers go up. Or maybe you say, I'm going to see if some of these numbers go up and then I will make said investment.
Yeah.
And real quick, because I know you're on a timetable, speaking of said investment, we don't share card prices too often, but I did think it would be worth sharing today. Elly De La Cruz card sales here by Card Ladder. Shout out Card Ladder. Um,
Carletter.
and September 12th, a Sapphire Auto PSA 10 sold for 1524, 1,524 bucks. If we scroll back just a ways, one that isn't autoed, August 1st, 1875. That's $300 drop. July 9th, 2,300 bucks. July 9th, $2,850. July 2nd, $2,000. July 2nd, $2,100. September 4th, $2,225, right? So there has been a drop on the price here of Sapphire autos or any other auto probably of Elly De La Cruz. And so if you are thinking to yourself, man, I would like to get in on some Elly De La Cruz action, I do think he is going to refigure it out. The MLB has obviously figured him out, and now we're going to refigure it out. Now might be your time to buy, but also the Reds likely aren't going to make the postseason at this point. They would
Ooh.
have to get pretty hot, I think. They got a number of teams ahead of them right now, if I remember correctly. At least one or two, maybe just one ahead of them in the line, and then the three ahead of them. So they could still make it, I suppose, and then you'd want that for the playoffs if he gets hot. But otherwise, if they don't make it, then there's probably a better buying opportunity in the offseason because he'd be coming off a disappointing end of the season. And then you couple that with nobody
Mhm.
really paying attention in the offseason and this $1,500 card you might be able to get for $1,300.
And that's why it's important to have your save searches on. And one thing that I've been doing is diving deep into some data and finding like, okay, when is like like actually a good time to buy, right? We always think it's the off season. One thing I figured out, it's actually in season when the balloon pops. When I say the balloon pop, like when the hope is gone. Like I haven't checked on Otani's prices since the injuries, like since his arm injury, but I'm sure it's dropped since then, and it will go up again. Like when he signs with the new team. Elly Day
Or
or
when he wins MVP again.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, he'll win MVP. But like he's probably more stable than anything. But like a player like an Elly De La Cruz, like as soon as they're eliminated from the playoffs, like I know in my mind, it's like, man, I don't want to buy that. I should just wait a couple months. Like, it's about to be the off season, but really sometimes it's the best time to buy if you can wait.
Yeah, they are real quick. They're 76 and 72. The Reds are, and that means that they're tied with Arizona right now.
They are playing the Mets this weekend, so that's 3 wins.
They're tied with Arizona right now on the outside looking in to San Francisco, who also is at the same record as them, 75 and 71 instead, as opposed to 76 and 72, 514 winning percentage. But that means they've got 2 teams right there, so they need to get hot to keep Elly De La Cruz in. But it's just this whole conversation. It's not to harp on Elly De La Cruz. I do think he's going to be good because he has so many other tools that will make him playable if the bat doesn't always come around, and he's still going to get extra base hits, right? Even if he doesn't get on base, even if he strikes out, he's still going to do damage and play good defense. The issue for me, and the one driving factor I want to send home today to anybody who's watching this, is that be careful when evaluating people if you're just saying, look how hard he hits the ball. He hits the ball hard, therefore he must be good. That's not always the case, because you can see with Elly De La Cruz, he's almost the 80th percentile. If we round up, he's only in the 80th percentile in exit velocity and hard hit. He's 97th percentile in max exit velocity. But it doesn't mean much if you're not barreling the ball, if you're chasing the ball out of the zone, if you're striking out a ton.
It's true.
So, Jimbo, any last words?
Nope, not at all.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for watching today's Cards on the Pond. We appreciate anybody who tunes in, and we will talk to you guys next week.
Deuces!